Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth Newsom and welcome to my BookTube channel. Today I'm going to talk about what happens to college students in college. This is a video interview of some other videos I made about my expectations for college and whether or not they were good expectations, and like you hear these crazy statistics of all these college students who go to college and lose their faith. And I would hear that from other parents, from my parents. I'd hear from people who'd just been to college that, oh gosh, I remember this one conversation with this female pilot. She's also a glider pilot. And I said that I didn't intend to party or do drugs or anything, and she's like, oh, that means you definitely will, because the more straight-laced you are, the crazier you are when you finally get the opportunity to party and stuff. And so I was terrified. It's like, am I just gonna have to party against my will? Do I not have a say-so in this? Like, what if I don't want to do those things? But what if I become a completely different person and then I do want to do those things? Honestly, people make such a big deal of it, and it's not a big deal. Not even a little bit. Like, of course, there's other influences, and you're presented with new opportunities to do maybe bad things that you didn't have before because you were under parental supervision. Honestly, it comes down to your own beliefs. If you're the kind of person who had really strict parents and the whole time you wanted to try stuff like normal kids, or, you were really looking forward to going out and trying new things, doing new things, and you weren't morally opposed to doing drugs, drinking, or having lots of sex, then that's probably what you did in college. Ultimately, it's based on the individual and their goals and values and what they want. For me, I have no desire to do any of those things. I am 21, so about once a month, maybe once every other month, I have something to drink. Usually if I'm with a friend who is above age, or with the vast majority of the time it's with my parents, because they can afford it, that way I don't have to buy it. And they have they have wines I like, the sweeter wines. I'm not a huge fan of dry wines. To me, my goals were more along the lines of spiritual and academic. I really wanted to excel in my schoolwork. I wanted to have a pretty strict schedule for myself where I achieved my personal goals, where I published a book, where I got editing, and I built relationships with other people, where I kept my faith strong, and I did all of those things. It literally just depends on what you want to do. It's not like you magically become a different person. Some people choose to do things differently once they're out and about and not living with their parents anymore, and that's their choice. But if you want to be straight-laced, or you don't want to do lots of crazy partying, then you're not going to. That's that. You're ultimately the same person, and you have the same personality and a lot of the same character as you do before you go to college. So it's nothing like there's this mystical, magical thing that happens to people when they go to college that makes them turn crazy or anything. Ultimately, it's just about an individual expressing what they want to do. And some individuals want to party. This individual did not, so I didn't. And I'm sure peer pressure can be a big influence, which I was also very mindful of going to college. So I surrounded myself with a lot of like-minded people. I attended this Baptist Student Ministries organization. I had lots of friends from that, and I would go on mission trips with them. And then I had lots of other people around me who actually had a very similar background. They'd been Christian and homeschooled. I have a lot of people just who are part of my community who are kind of subconsciously keeping me accountable. So I would say peer pressure can be a risk, but you get to choose your peers. So do so. Use that freedom wisely. And there were also several other things that were important to me that I was scared about. I was scared of getting the freshman 15 and getting overweight, which you can't see all of me right now, but I'm not. Whenever I come back, I'm about the same weight, honestly. And if I'm 2 or 3 pounds heavier, then I usually lose weight when I come back here to New Mexico for whatever reason. But because of those things, I was really careful to set habits for myself. For health and fitness, I go to the gym every morning when I'm at college, usually about around 7 or so before my classes start. And then I was also really careful with logging all of my calories to make sure I didn't become overweight. And then spiritually, I was really careful to keep up practices that were important to me. I went to church every week and I read my Bible every morning in and out of college. So ultimately, it just comes down to your peers and your habits, both of which are your decision. So it's not like against your will you're going to lose your faith or become an atheist or something. Because I know a lot of people, my friends and I included, were worried about that before going off to college. But again, not even a big deal. Another thing, I made a whole video about how I wouldn't be able to read as much during college, and that was spot on. Gosh. Yeah, I do not read as much. Even if I'm at home and doing online college classes, I don't read as much. I did finish one book the other day. Oh my gosh, and it was a fantasy romance book. I think it's the first fiction book that I've completed this year. I've fallen so far. But yeah, that about sums it up. I mean, in college, you definitely have more independence and freedom, and you get to use that however you want, whether for better or for worse. So it's pretty straightforward, and it's just, college is kind of like the rest of life. Again, you have responsibilities, and you have choices, you have consequences for those choices. It's pretty basic, and I think people make a bigger deal of this than they need to. And as far as my personal experience goes, for those who have had a really good upbringing, the people who I'm friends with and who I knew before college, and they were Christian and they were homeschooled, some of them have gotten even more extreme in their beliefs, I guess, in a good way, just like really strong about them and being okay with disagreeing with others about them. I can't say I've even known someone who's just radically strayed from their faith. Like, they were a really strong, sincere Christian, and then all of a sudden stuff changed and now they're partying and doing stuff. They have a whole new crowd. I'm sure that happens to some people, but I think those people tend to be the exception and not the rule. Well, there you guys have what happens to students in college if they lose their faith or just randomly start drinking and doing drugs if they haven't before. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe, because I often post videos about books, writing, sometimes college lifestyle. Not as much recently because I'm kind of in college, but kind of not with this whole online thing. Hopefully that goes away soon. And I'd love to hear from you guys. What are some things or myths that you've heard about college, and have you found them to be true, not true, or you're not sure because you're not at that stage yet? Let me know down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye!